Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tony Juniper. It's my pleasure and honour to be the chairman of Natural England, and I'm very pleased to be here today to be able to make a few remarks, albeit via the disembodied medium of this video message, to contribute to the first UK Seagrass Symposium. I'm absolutely delighted that the Cornwall Wildlife Trust and the Ocean Conservation Trust have been able to bring so many key players together to delve into what is a very urgent but also very complicated subject in terms of how we're going to reverse the fortunes of this particularly important coastal habitat that we find around the coasts of the British Isles. Of course, the context for the meeting couldn't be a more urgent environmental situation globally as we look at the grim conclusions coming from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and indeed see not only projections for the future but also some of the impacts that are already occurring, including the incredibly high ocean temperatures that we saw in the northeast Atlantic earlier this year, and of course the more extreme weather conditions that are coming in the wake of rapid global heating. But as everyone will be aware, of course, this is not the only challenge that we need to deal with. Of course, there is a parallel decline taking place in the health of the natural world. And this is not only on land, where the State of Nature report has documented rapid declines in many species, but also, of course, in the marine environment, where, for example, since the mid-1980s, we have seen, on average, a reduction in the populations of more than a dozen seabirds of about a quarter. And of course, the British Isles is one of the most important places in the world for seabirds, and so not only of concern to us, but also to the wider global picture. When it comes to the decline of nature, we're very familiar with the reasons for this, both on land and also at sea, with a combination of pressures ranging from unsustainable fishing, the impacts of marine development, including oil and gas and renewables developments, plus also the recreational pressures that come from different quarters, and on top of all of that now the impacts of climate change, which are seen in some of these extreme temperature variations that we've seen over recent times. Now, if we are going to halt and reverse the decline of the natural environment, we're going to need to take a whole system approach, because there are many pressures, and we're going to need to invest time and effort in thinking about some really smart marine spatial planning prioritisation in order to be able to accommodate all of the many demands that we place on the marine environment, but hopefully on the basis of a realisation that the healthier the seas, the healthier our economy, we can make progress despite some of those complexities. One piece of work that we're involved with at Natural England is the natural capital and ecosystem assessment that's going on at the moment, including in the marine environment, with partners in CFAS, the Environment Agency, the Marine Management Organisation and the Joint Nature Conservation Committee, working together to generate an evidence base that can enable us to make the kinds of integrated decisions that we need to make, moving beyond trade-offs and starting with synergies. Where can we find ways to accommodate clean energy, nature recovery and sustainable fishing all in the same seascape? I think it can be done, and investing more time and effort in thinking through the processes that lead us to those good conclusions is a very worthwhile endeavour. And so it is similarly with the conservation of particular ecosystems, including seagrasses, which bring an incredible array of really economically valuable services to us. And these include providing nurseries for commercially important fish, providing services in terms of nutrient and sediment capture, helping to shape the dynamics of sediment movements around the coast, and all of those helping to deal with environmental challenges, including some of the impacts of climate change. And then there is the climate change mitigation side of this. I've been absolutely staggered by some of the statistics I've seen about the multiples of carbon that can be captured in these kinds of coastal habitats compared even with tropical rainforests. And so we find that there is a compelling narrative for us in terms of being able to think through the ways in which we can do better for these systems, which have declined drastically around our coast as a result of development, of pollution. I'm told there have been disease impacts on seagrasses, and then of course the recreational pressures that come with boat use, for example, around some areas. I've always been fascinated by these ecosystems, as I have mangroves in the tropics, in understanding how flowering plants have managed to master this incredible physiological trick of being land organisms and moving into the sea and bringing this range of incredible benefits in their wake, as they do, for biodiversity, for the economy, and indeed for climate change. So leaning in to this particular question is really important, and this is why it's so brilliant today that you're all together there to be able to think through the common strategies that will enable us to turn the corner from decline and towards recovery. And Natural England is very proud to be a part of the Remedies project, which is investing in not only understanding some of what's going on, but also practical restoration of seagrasses, including there around Plymouth Sound, where hopefully not only can we gain more information about the processes required to recover these systems, but also to begin to spread that information around and to inspire other projects around the English coast, including in special areas for conservation where we have identified internationally important nature values that need to be protected. So this is a moment of opportunity, I think, there today in the Plymouth Aquarium. I've visited there a few times over the years, and my only regret about the symposium today is that I can't be there in person to listen to the conversation. But I'm sure you will make progress, you will find common cause, you will develop strategies that are needed to be able to go forward on this subject, and in so doing, over the coming years and decades, begin to see the recovery of these incredibly important habitats. At Natural England, we have decided that our mission in the modern context needs to be building partnerships for nature's recovery, and I do hope that we will be able to work with all of you in building those kinds of collaborations and joint strategies that are going to enable us to turn that tide of decline, which is now very well documented in this country, towards a period of recovery. And we should have every confidence that we can do this, because not only do we have the science setting out the nature and the scale of the problem, we also now have increasingly good examples of what can be done, and that is backed not only by an environmental improvement plan in this country, but also an ambitious programme of marine protected areas, including some highly protected marine areas that we have been working on with government during recent times, and by building momentum nationally and in the context of a global biodiversity framework that was agreed last year in Montreal. I do think all the pieces are beginning to line up to do this work, notwithstanding all the short-term pressures that we all face in being able to go on this journey together. So thank you all for being there. Thank you for your participation. And I very much look forward to seeing some of you in the field soon, and hopefully to visit again some of the wonderful work that's going on to recover seagrasses. And one of my most wonderful days as a chair of Natural England during recent times was actually joining our marine dive team in Studland Bay to be understanding how they do their work to gather data so that we can start to piece together the plans that are needed to make progress, including in that case, of course, with the recreational boating community who we're working with through that Remedies programme to understand how we can find advanced mooring systems that are going to enable the boating to continue, but without the damage that has in some cases accompanied that particular activity. But people working with goodwill, working in common cause, are revealing how we can actually do this. It's not simple, but it is necessary, but happily also is extremely possible if we can develop those collaborations and that joint approach that we need. So thank you very much indeed for everything that's being done on this subject, and hopefully see some of you very soon. Thank you very much indeed.